Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1751. Joe isn't a playboy. He genuinely cares about you. You've just been imagining the worst, which is why you feel so insecure, Shawn said. Summer deflated. Why is everyone siding with him? I am just telling it like it is. Of course, if you insist on blocking Joe from coming in, I won't allow him in, Shawn said, crossing his legs casually. Really? Between offending you and Gale or offending Joe, I'll choose to offend Joe. Meanwhile, Joshua had been pretending to watch cartoons. In reality, he was listening intently to the adults' conversation. Oh. He thought Shawn and Mommy would persuade Godmother and let Godfather in to talk things out. However, in the end, no one sided with Godfather. What could he do? Joe had helped him before. Joshua could not just stand by this time, he had to do something. After a moment's thought, Joshua slipped out of the living room quietly when nobody was paying attention. In the dark of the night, he dashed toward the front door. Joe stood outside. His car was parked nearby, with the headlights still on and the doors open. He crossed his arms, pacing back and forth, occasionally glancing at Temperley Hall. Aren't you going to let me in? He glanced at the guard. You must be new here? Don't you recognize me? The guard smiled apologetically. Mr. Winter, you're joking, right? How could I not recognize you? It's just that I'm in a difficult position too. Madam doesn't want you in, and Mr. Wood hasn't given any orders. I can't make the decision myself. He was just doing his job, he did not have the authority to decide. Joe was not one to enjoy causing trouble, so he gave up. Besides, most importantly, he did not want to force his way in. He wanted Summer to welcome him willingly. It would not have solved anything if he had gone in now. He had not thought of a good solution yet. Pat, 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 pat. Joe looked up. Under the dim lights of the street lamps, he saw a small figure sprinting toward the door, its little legs running fast. Joshua? Uncle Joe. Joshua panted, out of breath. I'm here. Joe looked at him. Who sent you? Your dad or your mom? I came on my own. Aunt Summer plans to leave through the back door. What? Had he scared her so much? She did not even dare to see him? He was confessing his feelings, wanting to be with her, not to take her life. Was she really that scared? From what I heard from Shawn and Mommy, they're all siding with her. So I slipped out quickly to find you. Joshua continued. Well, his godson really showed up for him when he needed him most. You come in first. Joshua pressed the switch, opening the side door. Hurry! Joe did not move from his spot. Uncle Joe? Joshua looked at him, puzzled. He had taken a risk to open the door for Godfather. Why was he not coming in? What I want to do isn't to enter this door, but to enter her heart. Even if I go in, it won't mean anything, Joe said. Joshua stared at him. But if you don't go in, you won't be able to do anything. Chapter 1752. He hesitated. Joshua continued. Mommy said that Shawn was really persistent in pursuing her. Why don't you try the same? If you don't act now, Aunt Summer might really leave. If she wanted to reject you, she would have said it directly. Since she has not outright refused you, it means she still has feelings for you. Uncle Joe, what you need to do is dispel her doubts and give her a sense of security. Upon hearing Joshua's words, Joe felt motivated. Right, Summer had not rejected him. She had just run away. Maybe she had not figured out how to face him yet. That did not mean she did not like him. Joe was invigorated. He immediately stepped through the side door, patting Joshua's head. Well done, I owe you one for this. Joshua chuckled. Go for it, Uncle Joe, win the lady's heart soon, and give me some siblings to play with. Go for it. The guard was speechless. Should he stop them or not? He had not done anything wrong, Joshua had let him in. It had nothing to do with him. In the living room, the crystal chandelier gleamed brightly, illuminating every corner. Yet, the atmosphere was incredibly silent. Just accept if you like him, reject if you don't, or say you need more time to think. Gale patted Summer's hand lightly. Why run away? You always have so much to say about other people's love lives, but now that it's your turn, you don't know what to do? Summer covered her face, collapsing onto the sofa. Gale, save me, stop scolding me. Didn't I just say it? You have 3 options, accept, reject, or think about it. Which one do you choose? Think about your feelings clearly before you answer. Joe isn't a fickle person. He's taken the step to pursue you, to confess his feelings. He's mustered up a lot of courage. If you hurt him, Gale reminded her. Summer sighed deeply. Truth be told, her answer was either to accept it or to think about it. She had not considered rejecting him. All things considered, Joe was a good man, and he treated her fairly well. Apart from verbally teasing her, he was actually very gentlemanly and polite in his actions. Could it be that Joe's teasing was actually a way of showing he liked her? Thinking this, Summer was even more confused. How about, should she see him? It was not that she did not like him, it was just that everything happened too suddenly, and she needed some time to think. Summer was not deliberately avoiding him, she just did not know how to face him. So, she chose to avoid him. Thinking this, Joe seemed quite brave. Compared to him, she felt rather timid. Summer stood up. Just as she was about to muster the courage to face Joe, they heard hurried footsteps in the living room. Chapter 1753. Everyone turned to look at who it was. Joe appeared, wearing a blue shirt, neatly pressed black trousers, a watch on his wrist, and a slight furrow on his brow. Joe always greeted people with a smile, but now he had a furrowed brow, indicating that he was indeed worried. He glanced at Summer, and their eyes met. Summer, who had just stood up, suddenly sat back down. She asked, "How did you get in here? Didn't the guard stop you? Or did you use some other way?" Joe did not answer. He just walked straight toward her. Summer looked around, trying to find a place to hide. After searching around, she could only hide behind Gale. Gale symbolically shielded her and looked at Joe. "What do you want?" "What can I do? She doesn't really want to see you right now." "Give her some time," Gale said, her voice gentle and calm. It sounded like Gale was on Summer's side. In fact, what Summer could not see was Gale winking at Joe while she spoke. Gale also felt it was quite tricky being caught between two people. On the one hand, she hoped Joe could be together with Summer. On the other hand, she did not want Summer to think she was on Joe's side. "I want to see her, and more importantly, I want to tell her that I'm not a beast," Joe replied. Summer remained hidden behind Gale, not lifting her head. She muttered, "Go away. I won't leave." "Summer, avoiding me isn't a solution to the problem." "Who says I'm avoiding? You were too forward. It happened too suddenly." "Was I? Didn't I remind you last time in the garage? Did I not make it clear enough, or did you forget?" Joe asked. Summer fell silent. Joe continued, "The time before last, in your office, when we made a new bet, I kissed you." "Stop." Summer suddenly raised her head, interrupting him. "Don't say anything more. He actually brought up the kissing incident. How embarrassing. Shawn and Gale were there. The kids were also here. However, it was too late. Everyone heard it." Shawn raised an eyebrow, showing no surprise. He had long known that Joe had made a move. For a man, having thoughts about the woman he loves is entirely normal. Joe's ability to hold back until now was already superhuman and comparable to the discipline of a monk. Gale, on the other hand, covered her mouth in shock. Heavens! They actually kissed? When did that happen? Why did she not know? Summer did not mention it at all. As if on cue, just at that moment, Nicole asked, "Can Uncle Joe kiss Aunt Summer?" Joshua, who had quietly slipped in behind Joe, just sat down when he heard Nicole's question. He earnestly replied, "Of course, just like Uncle Shawn can kiss Mommy." Chapter 1754. Are Uncle Joe and Aunt Summer getting married? Not yet, but they can now, since they have. When the time comes, we'll definitely be walking down the aisle with them, Joshua said. Nicole nodded. So only married boys and girls can kiss? Yes. You need to remember this, so you don't let other boys take advantage of you. Cough, cough. Shawn lightly coughed twice. It's past 8, you guys should go wash up and get ready for bed. Nicole looked innocent. Dad, I haven't finished watching this episode of the cartoon yet. Only Nicole was actually watching TV. Watch it tomorrow. Let's go, Daddy will take you upstairs, Shawn said, standing up. He took his daughter's hand. Joshua could go by himself. Why was Joe able to come in? It must have been Joshua's doing. Joshua thought he had slipped out unnoticed, but Shawn had seen him all along. He just did not want to expose him. After all, they did need Joshua's help. Seeing this, Gale also got up. Right, it's getting late, Joshua and Nicole should rest. She quickly took Joshua's hand. Joshua was still reluctant, constantly looking back. He still wanted to see the drama unfold. Gale gave him a firm tug and then squeezed out a smile. Summer, you guys talk, we'll put the kids to bed first. We'll come down later. The family of four hurriedly left, leaving the space for the two of them. The living room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Summer bit her lip, looking at him angrily. Are you happy now? What do I have to be happy about? What's there to be satisfied with? This is the first time in my life I've confessed, the first time I pursued a woman, and this is what happens. I'm about to lose face, and Shawn will mock me for decades. Joe did not come over, he stood there, keeping a certain distance from her. He knew that approaching her would only bring her pressure and panic. Why did you have to bring up the... Summer paused, then changed her wording, the incident where you forcefully kissed me. I was telling the truth. Joe. At this moment, he had an unusual calmness and composure. Summer, I remember you told me that it was your first kiss. I wanted to tell you that it was also my first kiss, Joe said. Summer was stunned. This was unbelievable. So, as much as it left a deep impression on you, it did the same for me. Joe pursed his lips. I've always remembered it. Summer was somewhat shocked, her mouth slightly open, unsure how to respond. He looked at her. I guess you're wondering when I started liking you. Summer nodded. I don't know the exact time, it was probably a long time ago. But from the day I realized I liked you, I've always remembered it. It was the day we made a bet. You lost, so you had to be my girlfriend for a month. I lost, so I had to be your servant for a month. At that time, Joe was confident of his victory. He knew he would win. She would become his girlfriend, even if it were just for a short month. At least something started between him and her. So, since that time, were you just tricking me? Summer asked, still stunned. Chapter 1755. I didn't trick you, it was you who willingly made the bet. I didn't force you. Then, from the moment we made the bet, it was the start of your malicious intent toward me. Joe, you had planned it all along. You were. Joe smiled faintly. I was doing what? Go on. He had planned it out from there onward. Joe's affection had already surfaced at that time. It was just that Summer was too dense, thinking he only wanted to win, thinking he did not know how to cherish a woman. In fact, he was expressing his love and interest. Every man pursues a woman differently, but the core idea is the same, which is to create opportunities for intimacy. Summer stared at Joe for a few seconds, then suddenly turned her head away, afraid of his sincere gaze, unable to look into his eyes anymore. Women are most afraid of a man's sincerity. They fear that he truly means it when he says he loves you. When he says he does not love you, he truly does not. Men's love always comes fast and fervent, like fire. In contrast, women's love is slow, gradual, gentle, and enduring. Summer wondered, when she finally decided to invest in this relationship and love him wholeheartedly fully, would his interest wane? Don't you dare admit it? Can't you face it? Summer, you've already thought it through, but you're unwilling to face it. Do you not believe that I could love you, or do you feel that you don't deserve love? Joe said. She bit her lip. I can only say that your way of pursuing someone is unique. So much build-up. It's precisely because it's been so long, yet you still haven't responded. I had to be a bit more aggressive, speed things up, and confess to you. Who knew you would get scared again? Joe sighed, feeling both helpless and resigned. What should he do to make her satisfied? At this moment, on the second floor, behind a wall, Gale was standing there, poking half of her head out, observing the situation in the living room downstairs. Joshua and Nicole stood beside her, also peeking out. The three of them moved in perfect unison, not making a sound, fully focused on listening and watching, afraid of missing anything. It seemed that their interest in drama was a family trait. Shawn stood behind them, helpless. Do you guys still need to? Shoo. Gale immediately turned around to warn him. Don't speak. Joshua chimed in, yeah, I can't hear anything anymore. Nicole added, Daddy, don't disturb us. Shawn had no choice. How much longer did they want to listen? Were they so curious that they had to hide here and eavesdrop? Gale was not setting a good example, bringing the kids along to watch the commotion. What could Shawn do but join in? He glanced downstairs, where there was still a considerable distance between Joe and Summer. One was on the sofa, and the other was almost at the dining room door. It seemed that Joe still lacked experience. From Shawn's perspective as an experienced person, Joe should have walked over, pulled Summer into his arms, and left her with no escape route. Chapter 1756. Summer felt even more confused. Women tend to overthink, keeping things to themselves, and men cannot guess what is going on. Joe and Summer just stared at each other from afar, neither taking a step forward. After watching for a while, Gale finally could not help but turn to Shawn. "What do you think? How long will they stay like this tonight?" "How would I know? It was not like he was the one chasing after a woman." Gale muttered, "What is Joe doing?" After so many years with no action or progress, suddenly confessing and pursuing all in one night, Summer would be scared to death by him. He either does nothing at all, or moves too fast. Who can adapt to that? If she were Summer, she would panic too. How could a longtime friend and boss suddenly become someone who had been secretly in love with her for a long time? "Is it still fast? I thought he would have won Summer over when they left the country," Shawn said. Gale gave him a scornful look. "Do you think every man is like you, unromantic and concerned with efficiency?" First efficiency, then romance. Seeing Shawn's attitude, Gale became even more annoyed. "Now that I think about it, you've never seriously pursued me. I've never experienced sweet romance, never felt the normal process of love, and just married you directly." The more she thought about it, the more unfair it seemed. The process of courtship is the most interesting and enjoyable. Love lies in the heart, wanting to speak but hesitating. Once they were together, the lack of ambiguity could have been more charming. Unfortunately, Gale shook her head repeatedly. "Alas, there's no chance in this life, maybe in the next. Or maybe my daughter, Nicole, can experience it for me." She earnestly advised, "Nicole, in the future, you must have a good relationship, choose someone you like, don't settle, don't rush to agree to the other party. Let the man chase you. If he doesn't put in much effort before getting you, this kind of man is probably not reliable." Joshua said, "Don't worry, with me as her brother, who would dare to treat my sister badly? You?" "You." Gale looked him up and down. "I'm worried that your presence will block Nicole's suitors. With such a protective and intelligent brother, other boys would pale in comparison. Plus, Nicole also had such a handsome and wealthy father." After some thought, Gale realized that with a father and brother like that, Nicole surely would have high standards. She wondered what kind of outstanding boy would catch Nicole's eye by then. Nicole looked somewhat puzzled. "What are suitors?" "It's nothing. You'll understand in a few years," Gale replied. She looked downstairs again. Summer kept her head down, her hands tightly clenched, showing her nervousness and unsure what to do. After a while, she spoke first. "Joe, do you want me to give you an answer? What I want is not your answer, but your truest thoughts." "I hope you follow your own heart and answer me," Joe replied. She bit her lip till it went red. She was reluctant to refuse him. Just like Gale said, what would she do if she outright rejected him, completely shattering Joe's heart, and he gave up? Joe felt moved and he returned to his original position. Chapter 1757. She felt torn. What should she do? If she agreed, she feared being too hasty and impulsive could lead to a bad outcome for their relationship. Actually, how did it end up being known by the whole Wood family? Summer said. "You came here, so I had to follow," Joe replied. Summer glared at him. "Why did you have to follow? If you follow, everyone will know what's going on." She had nowhere else to go. She could only confide in Gale. Joe, feeling helpless, could only comply. "Yes, my fault, I didn't handle it well." He would not have bowed down so quickly before. He would have argued with her a few more times. Now, he suddenly started taking responsibility, which Summer found quite unusual. Did they not love bickering? Would he be more docile if they were together? "It's not your fault," Summer's tone softened. "Can this be kept a secret? I think everyone has figured it out, I just thought I was hiding it well." "Yes, Summer, many people have figured out that I like you. Only you don't know it yet." Summer's voice was small and faint. I know." The look of love in someone's eyes could not be hidden, others could see it. The person being loved could feel it. Summer always thought she had misjudged her feelings, and that she had never been in love before. She was being overly affectionate. She had been alone for too long, longing for a hug and a shoulder to lean on. For so many years, Joe had been by her side. "You knew?" Joe's eyes sparkled slightly, corners of his eyes and eyebrows filled with uncontrollable joy. "So, you knew. I thought I was imagining things too much." Joe immediately interrupted her. "No, you weren't imagining things, I really like you." He was somewhat eager. He took several steps forward, wanting to get closer to her. Summer also stood up. "If you want an answer today, I can only tell you that I need to think about it." "Summer, what are you worried about? What concerns do you have? You can tell me." At this moment, Joe appeared so responsible, so reliable. In that instant, Summer felt an impulse. An impulse to throw caution to the wind, to throw herself into his arms tightly, and to enjoy love wholeheartedly. Do not worry about the future or care about others' opinions. Just to be happy. However, this impulse only lasted for a few seconds. Summer quickly regained her composure. The fact that Joe could make her have such thoughts indicated that he was already in her heart. Do you really like me? What do you like about me? Do you think I'm interesting, and our feelings have developed over time? What qualities do I have that attract you? Summer asked. Chapter 1758. Was Joe serious, or was it just a fleeting infatuation, or worse, a desire to possess her? Summer's question was what most women had in their hearts. They always wondered what he truly loved about me. What specific qualities do I possess that he loved? How deep was his love? Would it last? Would he leave? Men seemed to treat emotions more casually, withdrawing when they pleased, diving in when they wished. Women were different. Once they loved, it was with all their hearts and souls. Joe gazed into her eyes, silent. His silence undoubtedly made Summer's heart flutter even more. Could he not answer? Did he not want to address her worries? Gale's heart clenched. Speak up, Joe. Isn't this what you've been waiting for? Show some sincerity. Why are you suddenly mute? Goodness me. I'm anxious. Say what's on your mind. The living room remained eerily quiet. Gale glanced at Shawn again. Shawn looked back with a wronged expression. How many times had he endured Gale's silent reproach today? He had not done anything wrong. Why isn't Joe answering? Does he truly love Summer? From what I know about him after all these years, he's definitely in love. Then why is he silent? Shawn sighed softly. How should I know? I understand him, but I'm not him. Gale's eyes shifted. If I asked you these questions when you were pursuing me, how would you have responded? Darling, you've asked. She blinked, recalling. Oh, I remember. Suddenly, Gale felt a rush of sweetness. Your response was that you would prove it with actions. Shawn's lips curved slightly. Exactly. Love was not about sweet nothings or grand promises. At that moment, Joe said, Summer, I don't know how to answer. Why I love you, what I love about you. Perhaps love is just love, without a reason. If you want an answer, it's that in a world full of people, when I look around, I only see you. Everyone else fades into the background. With Joe's status, he frequently encountered beautiful and intelligent women. However, only Summer had caught his eye, his heart. Summer, I also don't know how to love you, but I can learn. I think just saying isn't enough, but a commitment to show you through actions that I truly love you, Joe continued. His tone was neither fast nor slow, loud or soft, but it gave off a soothing feeling. Especially to Summer, it sounded even more melodious. She steadied her mind, forcing herself to remain rational and calm. You speak so well, but how much of it is genuine? Is this called speaking well? Joe seemed a bit helpless, but chuckled self-deprecatingly. I think I'm quite awkward. He would not usually behave like this. In fact, he would rate his own response 60 out of 100. Chapter 1759. Perhaps it was because, in front of Summer, he could not utter those beautiful words. He only wanted to express the most genuine and sincere emotions with the most plain words. Summer, actually, I could say a lot of sweet words, a lot of romantic words, but I feel like they're all just playing to the crowd, he said. His flowery words were for show. However, he just wanted to be genuine. Despite feeling that way, she still questioned his sincerity. Joe felt a bit disheartened. Was he really so incompetent that he could not win over the woman he wanted? All right. Suddenly, Summer spoke a single word. Joe's eyes, which had just lowered, shot back up, staring at her without blinking. I understand. But I feel like I need some time to calm down and think. Can you give me some time? How long do you need? 3 days. Joe did not hesitate. Okay. I'll wait for your answer in 3 days. Summer suddenly felt the weight in her heart lift. She breathed a sigh of relief. He was willing to give her time. That was good. 3 days would be enough for her to think about the feelings between her and Joe, enough for her to consider whether she dared to accept his love and be brave for once. No one could guarantee that the outcome of a relationship could be good or bad, and it would last and lead to a happy ending. At least, for now, Joe was sincere. And she did have feelings for him. Joe walked up to her and ruffled her hair. You. Such an intimate gesture made Summer dare not move. If you had told me earlier that you just needed time to think before giving me an answer, Why would I have rushed to Temperley Hall and demanded an answer? I thought you didn't have any feelings for me at all, so I panicked, and I wanted to force you to make a decision, Joe said. He thought the outcome hinged on this one move, so he exerted all his effort, afraid that things would become set in stone. Now he understood. She just had not made up her mind yet. She did not dislike him. So, he could wait. Due to their height difference, Summer could only see his collar. She had always known that Joe was tall, handsome, and charming, but she had somewhat forgotten it because she had known him for so long. At this moment, she realized how charming he was. He was also a high-quality man that countless women dreamt of. He also had broad shoulders and a sturdy embrace. Just as Summer felt her heart flutter, Joe suddenly took her hand. She could not help but tremble slightly as if an electric current was passing through her from his hand. It was a very strange feeling. They had held hands before, but this was the first time her heart beat so fast. Summer stuttered, unable to speak, only wanting to pull her hand back. However, Joe did not give her the chance. He held her hand tightly. I'm not planning anything. Let go. No, because I'm going to take you home. Are you planning to stay here tonight? Joe said. Chapter 1760. Summer glanced at the staircase. Shawn and Gale had said they were taking the kids to wash up and sleep, but they had not returned for quite a while now, and there was no sign of them anywhere. She figured that they would not show up as long as she and Joe did not leave. Those who knew, knew. This was their way of giving space to her and Joe, letting them sort things out on their own. At this point, even best friends were not entirely reliable anymore. Gale already has 2 kids, and you're still single. Need some encouragement? Joe leaned in close to her ear, whispering. Usually, Summer would have shot him a fierce glare and snapped back at him. However, she was quiet and docile. She even could not help but wonder if having children and a family would make her gentler. Suddenly, she was startled by her thoughts. She snapped out of it. What was she thinking? Seeing her being so obedient melted Joe's heart. The usually fierce and bold little wildcat had suddenly turned into a meek little bunny. It was undeniably adorable. Holding her hand firmly, Joe led her out of Temperley Hall. Before leaving the living room, he quickly glanced back. In the corner of the 2nd floor, he saw the faint outline of a dress. Well, truth be told, he spotted it long ago. Was that not a delightful eavesdrop? The audience must have been satisfied. Gale had not expected him to leave and then suddenly turn back, which startled her, and she quickly retreated. She patted her chest. Could it be that Joe already noticed us? Yes, Shawn replied. What? All 3 of them looked at Shawn, puzzled. Sorry about that. We were just concerned about their relationship, Nicole said. Joshua was even more perplexed. It makes me look like a gossip. Actually, Mommy was the one who led us to eavesdrop. Gale felt accused. She reached out and grabbed Joshua's ear. You seem more excited than I am. Now you're blaming me? Ouch, that hurts. Stop pretending. I didn't even use much force. Tell me, did you let Joe in? Gale said. Joshua immediately denied. No, it wasn't me. How could it be? I've been watching cartoons the whole time. Why did Dad and Mom both know he let Joe in? Had Nicole spilled the beans? It was unlikely. He trusted Nicole. Joshua glanced at Nicole, who quickly waved her hands. I didn't say anything, Joshua. She also wondered why Mom and Dad figured it out. Do adults have some kind of special ability? It was you. I saw you sneaking out, but I didn't stop you, Gale said. Being a mom, she always worried about her kids. So even when Joshua and Nicole were at home, Gale would glance in their direction occasionally, ensuring they were safe and sound. Only then could she feel at ease. When Gale looked over, only Nicole was there, and Joshua was nowhere to be found.